Very pleased to have with us on the program right now the Sheriff of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. He was one of the highlights of the NRA ILA Leadership Forum on Friday at the NRA annual meeting. Sheriff David Clarke, thank you, sir, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, I was listening as much as I could to as many of the speeches I could on Friday, and I was so pleased I got to hear a lot of what you had to say, and you lit it up, Sheriff. I got to tell you, I loved you talking to the audience and reminding them that a lot of the folks that they'd be hearing that afternoon were people who were running for office, and to keep in mind that politicians sometimes tell people what they want to hear. I thought that was it was a good reminder, not just at that occasion, but in politics in general, that we as voters, just like you want your residents to be in the fight to protect themselves, we as voters, we've got to be informed voters. We can't fall in love and have stars in our eyes.
I agree, and I knew where I fit into this whole platform there, and many of them were career politicians and running for president. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I know how it must have felt for the audience to sit through and listen to one presidential candidate after another come and promise them the world. And it gets to be a little long-winded, and it also gets to be, a bunch of hot air. And so I thought I'd break it up for them. And I came out there to rally the troops, to inspire the troops, get them fired up about the fights that are ahead of us.
Well, I think you did exactly that, and I appreciate it. So I've just got to ask, I mean, I'm sure you had a good time at the NRA annual meeting. Did you get a chance to explore any of the exhibit hall or just kind of enjoy the annual meeting at all?
I did, and I take the time to do that because I like to be with the people. And I always say that the NRA is actually its members. And I met people from all across the country, all walks of life. Blue collar, white collar, different nationalities, and the reception was overwhelming. People would come up, and it isn't just that they say nice things; it's genuine. And I know a cross section of America, and I know that the members of the NRA. It's happening here in Milwaukee right now. They get maligned, they get slandered. The clingers that I talked about that Obama referred us to, and I wear that with a badge of honor. I'm a clinger. I cling onto my Bible. And my rifle as well. So, but just to get to see it, and it reinforces in my mind when I go out and defend the honor of law-abiding Americans of all walks of life who appreciate the Constitution, appreciate the rule of law, appreciate the Second Amendment because of what it has meant to the history of freedom and liberty in this country. And then I can go back home and I'm re-energized to fight the fights. We have one going on right now where the mayor of Milwaukee is blaming Governor Scott Walker for the violence that's been going on here in this city for quite some time. So then I can come back and say, not so fast. You aren't going to malign members of the NRA and their character and integrity and their values. I know them. I talk to them. You've never met them. And I don't let them get away with that stuff.
And I know that NRA members, again, we appreciate that. We appreciate that firsthand reporting on who NRA members are. But I want to ask you about violence in Milwaukee. I read a piece earlier today that had an interesting headline. Sheriff Clarke's ideas about ending gun violence contain some truths. This is from On Milwaukee, and I'm guessing that this was maybe a hard headline for these folks to write. But you talk about the violence, which is violent crime up in Milwaukee this year?
Well, it's not just this year. It's been a trend that's gone on for 5 or 6 years. But what happened here this weekend, it happened last weekend, and it happens every year, is you'll get a cluster of some heinous crimes. You'll get, we had 7 people murdered in a 48-hour period. And so when things like that happen, all of a sudden it gets the media's attention, it gets the public's attention, and then people ask, is crime on the rise in Milwaukee? Is violence on the rise? No, it's gone on at a steady pace for the last 5, 6 years, but if it doesn't happen in a cluster, it doesn't capture the media's attention. But then right away, when it does happen, the first thing that Mayor Tom Barrett, who is a disciple of Michael Bloomberg, by the way, he's on the board of governors of the Mayors Against the Second Amendment and Mayors Against Guns, and he just comes out yesterday, or the day before and regurgitates Michael Bloomberg's talking points memo, his anti-gun talking points memo, blame the NRA, blame the members of the NRA, blame the people in the state of Wisconsin that are concealed carry license holders. They have nothing to do with the violence. They don't use handguns to take property or to settle disputes. They're not the ones behind this. These are career criminals. This is the underclass. These are individuals who wouldn't qualify for a concealed carry license because they're convicted criminals. Matter of fact, one of the guys that was involved in the killing of 2 people at one scene, he's on parole for bank robbery. Part of his stipulation is, being a convicted felon, he's not supposed to possess a firearm. Mm-hmm. These people don't care. Career criminals don't care about gun laws. It's not the laws. We have enough laws on the books. It's not law-abiding citizens. It's not NRA members. It's not CCL, concealed carry license holders, that are involved in this stuff. So I take offense, and I take offense very aggressively to any implication that law-abiding gun owners have anything to do with the crime and violence that goes on in the city of Milwaukee.
Absolutely. And to that end, Sheriff, then the question becomes, and I think most gun owners have reached this conclusion already. We understand you don't go after violent criminals by passing laws that law-abiding gun owners will try to comply with. Then the question becomes, where are we failing? Are there problems with the criminal justice system? And we have a segment every day here called the Deal of the Day, where we highlight these plea deals, where people, as you say, who are on parole for bank robbery are committing more violent crimes. And you see these stories of guys that can rack up 50, 60 arrests, dozen felony convictions, and yet they never do any serious prison time. Is that a real issue?
It's a huge issue. The criminal justice system in Milwaukee County, it's different in different localities, but I can talk about Milwaukee County. I've been in law enforcement 37 years here. It is broken. This system here has gone soft on the criminal element. We have what's called a revolving door justice system. Most of your listeners will know what that is. The police go out, they do great work, they identify these perps, they get them in custody, they get them under arrest, they take them to the district attorney's office for charging. Either the DA won't charge them, or they'll give them some deferred prosecution or some watered-down plea bargain. And then when it comes to sentencing, the judges here go light as well, and they use what's called a state sentence, where they'll say, I'm going to sentence you to 8 years in prison, but I'm going to hold off on that and put you on probation. So they're recycling these idiots back into the community with a long history of we know that they're engaged in violent crime. We know they'll arm themselves. But the judges put him right back into the community. They reoffend like the bank robber, and finally now he killed 2 innocent people, and now it's a little too late. So that's what's going on here in Milwaukee County. And how do we fight this? Well, we have to put the pressure here, and that's what I've been working on the criminal justice systems, to start properly charging and sentencing these recidivist violent criminals and keep them locked up. Jails and prisons are an effective crime control tool. You know that. The other thing we have to do in Milwaukee is we have to have the mayor, instead of attacking the Constitution and instead of attacking the Second Amendment and law-abiding gun owners, he needs to come up with a vision for this city to fix the public school system. It's failing. He needs to come up with a vision to help people escape poverty. We're the 4th poorest city in America, okay? And then he needs to do something to attract jobs to this city so people can find meaningful work. That's on the social end. On the crime end, the same mayor has furloughed police officers. He will not fill the staffing vacancies in the Milwaukee Police Department. The same thing's happening with my budget from the county executive. And so you see how we're failing in those 2 areas. You work those 2 things together. More money and a higher priority for public safety, and to fix some of these and pardon my language, these social ills that lead to the rise of the underclass. And it's these underclass behaviors that we're talking about that are on display here in the city and county of Milwaukee.
And these, as you say, Sheriff, these are all huge issues. They require they require work. They require real, actual effort, not just
leadership.
Absolutely, and not just commissions to study the issue and then write a report about what hypothetically should be done. But you talk about you want people in Milwaukee County to have skin in the game when it comes to defending themselves. it seems like, folks need to have skin in the game in terms of turning the city around as well. You talk about, relieving some of these social ills, mentors going into city schools, anti-gang programs that can start at a very early age. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of things that ordinary, everyday Milwaukeeans can be doing right now, even if the leadership is failing.
Sure. One of the problems is that the middle class has shrunk in Milwaukee. Middle class families, middle class people have left. All right, they've left because of the crime. They've left because of failing schools. They've left because of the high taxes here in the city of Milwaukee. These are all the fault of the mayor. Okay, these failed liberal policies. So what's left is a growing underclass to fill that void, because as you know, nature abhors vacuums, and so it's going to be filled by somebody. So you have more people in the city of Milwaukee as residents that rely on social services, that have to rely on social service because of the poverty, because of the absent fathers, because of the lack of jobs. And so they're draining from the system but aren't paying it back in, okay, in terms of paying taxes, income taxes, home ownership is declining. And so you see how complex this thing is. It's fixable and it's doable, but we have failed liberal leadership, and the liberal Democrats have been in charge of the city and county of Milwaukee for the last 50, 60, 70 years, okay? They have a stranglehold on the political structure of Milwaukee, and it's very hard to get people with a more conservative and more middle-class value mindset into these offices to turn this around. These are all liberal Democrats on the city council. We have an uber-lefty mayor in Tom Barrett. The county board in Milwaukee is the same way. I'm the only conservative in government at any level, whether it be state. All the state legislators from Milwaukee and Milwaukee County, or most of them anyway, are liberals. And so you see how it has a stranglehold. And I know the way out of this, but I'm fighting uphill. I'm trying to roller skate up a hill backwards here because of this strong influence of liberal Democrats and liberal Democrat policies.
So Sheriff, I got to ask, would you consider a run for mayor given the uphill fight that you've just described? I mean, you're a smart guy. You'd go into this with your eyes open. Is it possible for someone like you to win a mayor's race in the city of Milwaukee?
Well, for me, it would be a great name recognition. Obviously, I've won elections here 4 times, and so I do have a voting base here. But what I want to do is take this one day at a time, one step at a time, and see where I can have the most influence in this area. And one of the big things I have right now is platforms like yours, talk radio here, national TV, that have allowed me to use their platforms to message. I think everything starts with a message. And if you don't have a strong message, you can run for anything you want. So I'm taking it a day at a time, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, listen, Sheriff, I appreciate you spending some of your day with us today. Thank you again, and look forward to talking to you again very soon, sir.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Sheriff David Clarke, the sheriff in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, with us right here on NRA News, Cam and Company.